Samson struck down 1,000 oppressors of Israel with the jawbone of a donkey. At the blast of trumpets at a war cry, Joshua watched the walls of Jericho crumble. With torches and empty jars, Gideon and 300 men defeated an army of 100,000. David chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, and with them he struck down Goliath. 5,000 were fed with only 5 loaves and 2 fish. If God can use such small things to change the course of history, certainly He can use you.
Amen. Right. My favorite thing is there, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing is impossible. When you hear about those stories in the Bible and the big, huge obstacles and problems that they faced, it looked like there was no help. There was no hope. There was nothing. And you see the small things that God used to break down those walls, to be able to conquer those giants. He makes anything possible. The difference is that those people in the Bible, they had faith. They had a spiritual vision that God had placed in their heart, that they didn't know how they were going to do it, but they had the faith that God was going to be able to do it. And that's what we talked about, what they were talking about in the video. It says in John 20:29, then Jesus told him, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. Well, for me, I'm going to be turning 40 this year, and God decided to bless me with a gift. So I can't continue on if I don't have these on. And it took me a really tough time to get adjusted to these. I had terrible headaches. My 7-year-old got his glasses at the same time, and it's totally perfect, embraced it, accepted it. I sure didn't. But then God told me one day, He said, I gave you these so you can see life a little bit clearer. And that's what sometimes He has to do. Your optical vision is something that God's given us. Some we don't have that great, and some we have 20/20, and we think we can see perfectly. But then there's times in our lives where we get clouded, and we don't see what's ahead of us. So we have to have a pure heart. We have to have that blind faith. It says in Matthew 5:8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Again, that's what those figures in the Bible, that was the difference. Was they didn't see, they could not physically see how that was going to happen, how they were going to conquer these big obstacles in their lives. When you talk about vision, you talk about what it brings into your life, what it brings into your world. It brings focus. Vision has a tendency to bring order into your chaos because it's your perspective. If you are not, if your vision is not there, if your perspective is not intact, you're all over the place. Have you ever been in one of those big gigantic fog storms where you're like driving and you just can't see anything in front of you? But you gotta get to where you're going. And so you proceed. You have faith you're going to get to the destination that you're going, but you're going to have to proceed, and you're going to have to proceed with caution. I'm going to give you guys 4 things that complete vision in your life. Vision brings these 4 things, And it just brings it together, it just binds it. So they go hand in hand. Number one, passion. Vision invokes emotion. You have a passion for something. Think about your dreams. We were just talking about in the icebreaker about what you thought of, what you dreamed of when you were growing up. Some of us might have made those dreams come to fruition and come to life. And others, maybe we're still dreaming about it. I know we're all still here, so we obviously still have time. It's not to say that if, I want there to be a basketball player, I'm going to go and play for the Heat. I don't know if they'd take that very well. But I don't know how the men would take it if they went and replaced me with LeBron. I don't think that would go very well. But vision invokes emotion. Vision is the main reason why you begin to see things clearer. That passion that drives in you starts to open up a focus of what you want to do in your life. And God starts placing this in your life. Number two, he brings in motivation. Motivation is what's going to get you going. It's going to sit there and give you the reason to complete the things that you have to do. God places that God-driven motivation so you can have the desire to complete your goals. Number three is direction. Got to know where you're going. Just like in the fog. We have fogs in our lives every day. We have to know where we're going. It says the practical advantages of vision by setting direction in our lives. When we begin to follow God's direction, things become clearer. We go on our own, it becomes a little bit harder. Anything that moves us in the right direction gives us a green light. Anything that is not from God is what begins to distract us. It says in Hebrews 12, 1-2, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that is so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured on the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. We got to fix our eyes on him. When you read the story of Peter when they're on the boat and Jesus starts to approach them in the middle of the storm, and he asks Peter to come to him. Peter goes out and begins to walk on the water. But one of the things that we see in the story is the minute he takes his vision off and he lets that faith and that hope that he has, that he knows in his Lord, that he's going to save him and he's going to make it happen, he starts to drown. How many times in our lives have we been distracted and our vision has gone astray and we're not focused on him, solely on him? We start to drown. God uses a lot of distractions. He allows a lot of distractions, a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations in our lives to make us refocus and to build up our spiritual vision and our spiritual eyesight in him. During those times, our spiritual vision is strengthened and we begin to see through his eyes, not our own. So you see, if we start to ask every single one of the women in here, the trials and tribulations that you've gone through, there's been, all of us, there's been times where we've been clouded and we've taken our eyes off of him. He's still there. He's always been there. but we decided that we had to look away, or we let the distractions of the world, or the panic, or the anxieties, or the situation itself take over. But the amazing part about it is that each and every single one of us, including myself, those trials and tribulations were conquered because we're standing here today. I've gone through many trials and tribulations in my life. I get over it. One of the biggest ones that I just went through last year was a cancer scare. A handful of people knew what was happening with me. And I just felt that at a time in my life, this was just a time I had to deal with internally. And it was a lot of time being in His presence. I always had problems getting pregnant, and thankfully, by the grace of God and His mercy, I have 3 kids. So when I started to feel bad last year, I just knew I was off. There was just something off. And it took a while for the doctors to be able to find what it was. But I knew there was something wrong. I felt a lot of pain. And I remember one of the pastors telling me, you're going through something so you can understand something you've never been able to understand before. And I did. I understood that internally. And I was able to understand things that friends of mine, family members had gone through. And I could understand their pain and the heartache of enduring something like that. One of the hardest things for me, and for that everybody knows how I am, I'm a very positive person, and I'm always the encourager, and I'm always giving you that word of hope. I knew God had it. I had no doubt in my mind that God had it. What I didn't know, what did God have? And for me that was, if it was my time to go, and there was a decision that He needed me elsewhere, then I was okay with that. As a mom and as a wife, what I worried most was, how are my kids, my husband going to be okay? I knew God got it. But if His decision was not for me to be here, then there was a lesson that had to be learned. So it was really hard, because when you go through something like that, you have friends, you have family members saying, don't worry about it. You have the faith of a mustard seed. That doesn't mean that it doesn't change the situation. It doesn't mean that your faith lessens. It's really hard to sit and say, God, if you take me today, I'm okay. So, for me, praise God, thank God, I got operated in January. So, not only for my soon-to-be 40th birthday did He give me glasses, He also began the process of eyelashes. So, I'm starting a little bit earlier than expected, but I kind of thought about that because I started a little bit earlier in life, you know what I mean? So I kind of expected it, you know, and I had my friends that are in their late 40s, they're like, oh, you're going crazy, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, I know. Then I have one of my really good friends that, you know when you have a really good friend, because they just tell it like it is. There's no sugarcoating in it. There's no nothing. We were having dinner one day, and I cooked, and you guys know I love to cook and entertain, and so I'm cooking and I'm trying to make sure everything's ready. And so you would think, I'm cooking and I'm getting hot in the kitchen and stuff like that. And that's not what was happening. One of my sweet friends was like, "Oh, you have been working a lot. You've been in the kitchen, and that's probably why you're feeling so hot and flashy and stuff." And then right across from me, got a really good friend, says, "Oh no. I've known her for a really long time. This has never happened to her. She's having hot flashes. We need to put the air on, get her water, do something. No, this is serious. I'm looking at her and I'm like, my poor husband, he just doesn't get it. But I could always vouch my friend got it. Can't wait for her to get there. Say it in 80s. But he brings these things in our lives to bring a testimony. There has to be a test, so there can be a testimony. And each one of you has that. That's how he develops our vision. Because it makes us stronger to continue to move on. Because I'm here today. And all of you are here today. I can't even begin to imagine how many stories we have of cancer survivors here. Divorce, having a loss of a child, and you're here today. So God has a vision. God has a purpose for your life. And so number 4 is purpose. Vision turns into purpose. He gives you that drive to keep going. And that's what he gave me. Because when I got that word from pathology and I got a thing that green light go, you're okay. I said, I got it and took a picture of like this. I would have kissed my muscle, but you can't see it. It's just like, yes, victory. That vision helps us every morning to get up. That purpose, every day to get up. We have to, even if we don't want to. Some of us are in like these horrible jobs that we don't want to go to, but we have to have a purpose, because if we're not going to get the moolah. It's not going to fall, there's not a tree, that'd be fun. We got to do chores. I don't like doing chores. I'm very honest. This can be put down on the record. You can let my husband know. I don't like doing chores. But if they don't get done, then there won't be any clean clothes, or there might be, like in my instance, it's all clean, it's just not folded and put away. But I have to have the purpose. You have to have that drive. And some of you have a passion, and you might be doing what you love. But there's a purpose behind that. God placed that in your heart. If we don't show up, nothing's going to happen. Meaning, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to get done. You matter. And God has made you extremely purposeful. It says in Ephesians 2:10, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You have a purpose. You have a vision, a God-given vision that He's given you. I want you guys to look at an image that I have of this little and this is called a collared python. Anyone think cute? Yes. Well, this collared python, my husband and I were watching. This is how God talks sometimes. He tells you things just out of nowhere. And he talked to me through the collared python. I know that sounds really weird, but let me explain. My husband and I are watching a new show on cable. It's called North America. Has anybody seen it? North America? If you haven't, we're sciencey people in our house. My husband's a scientist, and my son will be, so we're always watching documentaries. So North America. I have a little ADD, so if I go off, those that have ADD will understand. The colored pika. They were doing this documentary on this little thing. Now, this cute little thing, okay, lives in this area.
How pretty.
Okay. Alaska? It lives on the mountain tops of the snow-capped mountaintops. It's related to the hare family. I know it looks like a mouse, but it's actually a hare, a little rabbit. And it can withstand just the storms and the cold up there. They don't hibernate, so they need enough food to last through the long winter. They spend the short summers in a frenzy of activity, collecting summer flowers, grasses, shrubs, you name it, mouths stuffed full, and they race back and forth. Their purpose is to race back and forth every day, creating their stockpile. It's kind of like, soon you'll be hearing one of our friends who has had us all crazy in extreme couponing, doing stockpiles of stuff. We've become these little colored pikas, just stockpiling our body washes and hair stuff and foods, because, we don't know what's going to happen. So we race every day, and it's really fun. If you follow us on Facebook, it's crazy. That's what we do, and that's what this little collared pika does. It just has a purpose of every day. If it doesn't show up, nothing is going to happen. It lives by itself. One of the amazing things about it, though, it collects 50 times their own body weight in vegetation. Now, to me, that's not the miracle part of it. The miracle part of it when I was watching this documentary is that, okay, there's snow and there's flowers. How'd that happen? Literally, I put it on pause. Again, my friends that know me, I'm very animated. I put it on pause. My husband's like, what now? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, how is it that there's snow and flowers? God provides for that little 2-inch hair. It's a mammal. It's not a woman. That vegetation so it could live in the middle of nowhere. Sure enough, He's going to provide for me. Sure enough, He's providing for you. That to me was the most amazing thing that I saw. Then later on, about a week later, I ended up inheriting 2 dwarf hamsters. About the same size. Sneaky and fluffy marshmallow. As my kids call them. Sneaky, well, Sneaky sneaks out. But it was funny because as soon as I got it, I went, oh, my colored pikas. Except I have to provide for you. But to me, it was a reminder. That, to me, was my reminder that God always provides. And so I couldn't go to Alaska and get one of these cute little things, but I got a dwarf hamster, 2 of them. And so, God has a vision for what you are to do with your allotted time here. If He's taking you to it, He'll see you through it. And He has, because you're here today. What are you going to do now? What did you learn through your experience? What did you surpass? What did you get out? Can you imagine if you don't follow your vision that God has given you? How sad and how tragic on this side of eternity that would be. I heard somebody once say, people talk about bucket lists. They switch it around and say, I don't like a bucket list. It kind of feels like you're preparing to die. Which, yes, we are. But I always like to see things in a different perspective in a positive life. Let's make a live list. Let's make a list of all the things we want to do while we're here on this side of eternity that God places in our hearts. And so, how are you going to go by discerning your vision? Well, you become aware of a concern. That's the first thing that God does. He gives you a God-ordained vision. And He places something that just bothers you. For those of you that are small group leaders or belong to the outreach, God placed something in your heart that said, you know what, something wasn't right. There's a need. So He gives you that aware of a concern. But one of the things that we do is that we don't have patience very often. I know I don't. And that brings us to number 2. Nehemiah had a huge concern over the condition of Jerusalem. And he wanted it to change. Moses wanted a change for his people as well. But they didn't react instantly. They had to wait. God makes us wait sometimes. And those are the trials and tribulations that we go through. We have to wait. We have to be silent and be still. So number 2 is you have to wait. And I know that us as women, we don't have to wait. Especially if you're like me, who in my household, I'm always waiting on my husband. I'm ready. And I'm like, come on. Which normally is the other way around, usually, but not in my household. It drives me insane. So having a vision doesn't mean that you take action immediately. You have to receive the idea from God and just wait. Again, Nehemiah and many of the other biblical figures, just like we have seen, waited for God's timing, not their own. If they would have gone on their own, nothing would have happened. If Moses would have gone on his own, he had the sea in front of him, the Egyptians behind him, as Jerry Reed said. That was amazing this weekend. That's what it feels like. We have a wall in front of us and a wall behind us. You're not going anywhere. You have to wait. And so God says, I'm going to break it down, or I'm going to give you strength to climb over it. So we have to have patience. Philippians 2:13 says, for it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. It's not you. Get yourself out of the equation. It's God goals. It's God ideas. It's my word for this year, which is Godfidence. Godfidence is the ability in what God can do in your life, not in what you can do in your life. It's what He can do in your life. So you've got these visions. You got to pray. You got to prepare. You got to plan. God brings a lot of people into our lives. He brings us friends. He brings us family members. Sometimes you're going to get discouraged because they're going to put things in your life and say things. But He does bring people into our lives where He's going to show us and move us and continue to put that plan and purpose into play. And He's going to use the circumstances, those trials and tribulations, to place us where He needs us to be at that moment in time to prepare us to accomplish His vision for our life. Are you ready to do that? One of the things that I wanted to bring in my AD and running around, I have a vision board. I have a huge vision board that we did, and I've done this for years. And I put it out there. I have things in the middle that my husband and I want. We have prayers, we have our picture of our family, and on each side I have my goals as an individual person, and he has his. So that's one of the things that I want you guys to be able to start and do if you've never done one before. And if you have, start a new one. So I'm going to show you guys this final video. I hope you guys can be able to live out your purpose. Live out your dreams, God's dreams. And if you're in a point right now where He has you waiting, just be silent and still. He's working. Thank you.
Your face is beautiful, and your eyes are like the stars. Your gentle hands have healing there inside the scars. Your loving arms, they draw me near, and your smile, it brings me peace. Draw me closer, oh my Lord, draw me closer, Lord, to thee. Captivate us, Lord Jesus, set our eyes on you, devastate us with your presence falling down. And rushing river, draw us nearer, holy fountain, consume us with you. Captivate us, Lord Jesus, with you. Your voice is powerful, and your words are radiant bright. In your breath is shadow, I will come close and abide. You whisper love, life divine, and your fellowship is free. Draw me closer, oh my Lord, draw me closer, Lord, to thee. And captivate us, Lord Jesus, set our eyes on you, devastate us with your presence falling down. And rushing river, draw us nearer, holy fountain, consume us with you. Captivate us, Lord Jesus, with you. And let everything be lost in the shadows of the light of faith. And let every chain be broken from me, as I'm bound in your grace. For your yoke is easy, your burden is light. You're full of wisdom, power, and might. And every eye will see you. And captivate us, oh Jesus, set our eyes on you, devastate us with your presence falling down. And rushing river, draw us nearer, holy fountain, consume us with you. And captivate us, Lord Jesus, with you. Captivate us, Lord Jesus, with you. Captivate
Let's give Cindy a hand. Thank you for your